Hello and welcome to this session of Marketing 301. Today we are going to discuss how to manage marketing information to gain customer insights. But before that, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Cesar Zamudio. I have a PhD in marketing from the University of Texas at Dallas, and I'm currently Associate Professor of Marketing here at VCU, where I joined in 2019. I currently teach marketing research and marketing analytics, and my research work is quite varied. I do digital marketing, virtual reality, sensory marketing, and other topics. I also love fashion, reading, horror movies, and nature photography, so you can say hello to a couple of the creatures I took pictures of. But now, to get started, do you recognize these logos? Clearly, the logo in the left is Gap's logo, but in 2010, the company thought it would be a good idea to refresh their image. So, without consulting with their loyal customer base, they just boldly proclaimed that this logo, which looks like a bank's maybe, was going to be their new identity. Now, of course, that didn't work, and Gap had to endure some humiliation as consumers responded by creating a crappier logo site where you could rebrand or rebland anything with their new image. And so Gap was pillared in the media, and now this is a textbook case of why, despite being a multi-billion-dollar company, you should still listen to your consumers before making decisions. Now, have you ever seen this contraption as the legendary Juicero, which is another failure which was positioned as a game changer for juice making produced by Silicon Valley's best? The hype was unbelievable as major media outlets lauded the health and convenience benefits of this $700 juice maker, resulting in $70 million in investments. But of course, it didn't work. Turns out that beyond its promise, once actual users had their hands on it, they discovered it was just a grossly overpriced juice maker. And so Juicero became yet another cautionary tale of why you should listen to consumers before designing and manufacturing a new product. So yes, the reason behind these failures is because these companies, despite being loaded with cash, failed to listen to the voice of the consumer. Now, there's many ways to accomplish this. Focus groups, surveys, marketing analytics, etc. But it has to be done. Why? Because consumer data becomes consumer insights. So tattoo this somewhere. Insight from data is a competitive advantage that adds value to companies. But it is also about this. It's about becoming data-driven, analytics-enabled, and therefore stand out in the job market. The more you are aware of the value of consumer insights through data and how to analyze that to listen adequately, you will be an invaluable business professional for any organization. Now, as a gentle introduction to these matters, I'm going to discuss three things: the marketing information system, sources of marketing information, and marketing research basics. Now, the marketing information system is the sea we swim in as data-driven, analytics-enabled marketers. It's a system of people and procedures that assesses, develops, and analyzes information given user needs. Now, by users, I mean anyone in the organization that needs insights from consumer data, right? Can be your boss, you, a partner outside the company, and so forth. So the MIS determines what information is needed and how it will be used first of all. And to do so, there has to be a good balance between cost, accuracy, and feasibility of the information. Now, the development part of the MIS is really interesting because we have to find consumer and market data somewhere to transform it into information, that is insights. So where is it and how do we get it? Well, you have your internal sources, for example, company records, your employees. This is found across departments in an organization, and a good MIS will stitch all of that data together. So this requires a commitment to gather data and clean it systematically in the company so there's a nice flow of information. Now, how might that look like, right? Well, think about Rent the Runway, a company who rents luxury clothing. Rishabh Mishra, an engineer from Twitter, published data from Rent the Runway through a website called Kaggle, so you could go and download it right now. And this is an example of how data in an organization would look like. Rows and rows of records from customers, age, body type, what they rented, etc. Now, if you worked at Rent the Runway and used their data to find insights, you could find, for example, that the body type of their consumers stands to hourglass and athletic, right? So that impacts what they should stock. You could also find out that about 1/4 of the rentals result in a small or large fit, and that negatively impacts customer satisfaction. So this also reveals that stocking the right clothes for the right consumer is critical. Now, this is not something esoteric, right? If you were to be interviewed by a fashion company, you would download the data, put together a business case so that you can showcase your skills, right? And this is, by the way, one assignment in my marketing analytics class. So being data-driven and analytics-enabled is not something out of reach. You can do it. I want you to do it. So we'll see a couple more examples throughout this presentation. Right, marketing intelligence is another data source for the MIS, which is public information from websites and social. This is generally used to gauge sentiment and consumer preferences, but can also be used to monitor competitors' prices and other matters. Now, how can you do it? Well, in my analytics class, this is one student did. He wanted to work in the brewery industry, so he collected review data from Beer Advocate, hundreds of thousands of reviews, and made this infographic. First, he determined the top and bottom 10 states in terms of satisfaction with beer, and then the overall satisfaction for each type of beer. Now, this of course would look amazing in a job portfolio and would be a conversation starter at any company. Now, in another example, a student who developed his own music beats scraped data from Spotify and TuneBat to determine what are the musical characteristics of the top 200 Spotify songs. Now, besides helping him in his content creation, as you can see, there's many characteristics. Should he want a job in the industry, again, this looks fantastic. So again, these are examples of fellow students, so I want you to do analytics. You can do it, okay? Now, final data source, marketing research. Now, this is a more formal approach that requires a situation like your boss tells you, my sales hurt, right? So you need to figure out why that's going on. Defining specific research questions. It's a very broad subject, so I'm going to discuss it in more detail. But before moving on, however, note that the best marketers blend all of these three data sources to paint a very accurate picture of who the consumer is. Now, marketing research is vast, so I'm only going to touch on two major topics that you should always remember. I'm going to talk about them like flavors, okay? So first, research objectives. They come in three flavors, and those are the goals of a marketing research project. Now, exploratory is the first, so these are defined earlier on in the project. The goal is to just learn more about the situation. So develop a couple of small focus groups to get people talking about what they don't like about a new product, for instance. Now, descriptive research is another type of objective which is addressed later in the project and is used to describe the market, conducting surveys which can be statistically analyzed to understand willingness to pay, likelihood to buy, satisfaction, and so forth. You're describing those facets of the consumer. Now, lastly, causal research investigates cause and effect very formally through experiments. So this is mostly on demand, very specific management needs, but a very typical example is A/B testing, which is now done quite extensively in digital marketing, such as figuring out what might be the optimal color for a website. Now, second important topic, marketing research data always comes in two flavors. Secondary data that already exists in a library, in a report, existing records, internal or external, is there for you to use already. Like consulting using an industry report for market size or attractiveness. But in contrast, primary data you need to gather. It doesn't exist yet, so you need a research design, a sampling plan, and other matters that need to be very carefully planned. One example could be conducting in-depth interviews to learn about shopper preferences, right? Now, how do you pick? Well, secondary data is cheaper and faster, but not custom or timely because someone already did it. Whereas primary data, because it's new to the world, it's customized and timely, but slower to gather and more expensive. Now, good marketing research, of course, usually would gather both. Now, example, students from my marketing research course developed a project for Richmond Seltzer Company. And through about 100 surveys which they analyzed, they learned, for example, that price sensitivity is quite important in alcoholic beverages as they predicted, the ideal location for a brewery, and also the ideal presentation for a beer and what the material is. But most importantly, they also uncovered that social media presence differs by age group, with older people being on Facebook, younger people being in Instagram. That consumers are more likely to buy a seltzer if they bought one recently, and that low price matters across the board, regardless of consumer segments. So that's right, they did it, and so can you. Now, this is a brave new world out there, as noted by McKinsey & Company, who put together a series of elements for good, future-proof marketing. Being, of course, data-driven and analytics-enabled, but focusing on substantive information, not on mere data. Engaging the consumer with storytelling and doing it fast. So it's a great time to be a marketer because in this new world, we engage both sides of our brain, the analytical and the creative, and to the extent that you can do so as a creative, engaging, but also data-driven and analytics-enabled marketer, the future is yours. Now, to continue your journey, I teach both the marketing research and marketing analytics course here at VCU, should you be interested. But if there's anything I can help you with, whether you're in my class or not, please get in touch with me via email and I'll be happy to talk to you. So take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you soon.